All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. My name is Aviator, as you all know, and today we have the Presearch team who will be coming in today. We also have Timothy, who's going to be representing the team today. Timothy is actually the founder and principal of Digital Capital Management, and prior to founding DCM, Mr. Eniking was actually the founder and investment manager of the cryptocurrency fund, which is on cryptocurrencies. And now he's also the founder for Presearch. Now, you might be wondering what Presearch is. Presearch is actually a decentralized search engine that aims to disrupt the traditional search industry by offering a community-driven, privacy-focused an alternative. Now, it is operating on the Ethereum blockchain. So Presearch rewards users with pre-tokens for their engagement, including searching, contributing, and promoting the platform. Now, this is one of an amazing project that I will be bringing to you all today, and we have Timothy to kick us off and tell us more on the project. But then I want to pass the mic over to Mr. Tim. And so, Tim, I hope you did have a wonderful day and are having a wonderful day. Could you give us a quick introduction about yourself, where you're from, when you got into crypto, and a brief introduction about your team? That would be really, really lovely.
Sure. I'll just start with where I got into crypto. I was actually living in Russia, and a group of guys who were running an exchange in Malta, of all places, had created a crypto fund. It was a Bitcoin fund. That was the only crypto that existed. They asked me to manage it, and took me a while to get comfortable with it because it was a revolutionary concept. This was 2013. Really, really liked it. I had a fund that was focused on Russia. I pulled it out, and we created the world's first crypto trading fund. That led to Presearch, led to other things. I actually wasn't one of the founders of Presearch, but I launched, my face anyway, launched the ICO in 2017 because I gave an interview on CNBC regarding recommending tokens, and Presearch, the pre-token, is one of those that I recommended. As a result of that, they hired me as an advisor. I left the company, the project, after 4 years because they weren't making a lot of progress. And a year and a half ago, they asked me to take over the project because that management really had proven they couldn't do it. So I created a new company in the US. We bought the assets, started everything from scratch, relaunched it, fixed all the problems, and now we're really, really taking off. We have a token, as I said, the pre-token has more utility than any other project I know. We have node runners. It's a completely decentralized search engine, so it's got 40,000 nodes, including many in Africa, specifically Nigeria. Don't know about Mauritius. And the community is really engaged there. You can earn tokens to search, but we had so much fraud, we had to really drop the number of tokens. And so instead, we created another program, more utility, where if you stake tokens in search, you can actually earn significant tokens. And then the third utility, we created something called keyword staking, kind of like Google AdWords, if you will, but people bid on words, terms with pre-tokens. And then if those words or terms appear in somebody's search, whatever they want, whatever link they have will come up. And if they want to move that link up the search results, they pay 1% of that pre-stake every month to do that. So lots of utility for the token. Also, we have a number of additional services we offer. We have a really good generative AI engine with very low guardrails, because one of the themes of Presearch is privacy. We collect no data, and freedom. We don't want to censor or limit what you can look at. We also have ad-free search. You can pay for those. They're like $2 or $3 a month. It's very inexpensive. You can pay for them in pre-tokens, or you can pay for them in fiat, as you like. So it's a really good closed loop in terms of the tokenomics. And now that we just finished a whole bunch of new initiatives, we're about to start launching more advertising and advertising the search engine, let people know about it, and marketing like this AMA to let people know that Presearch is a search engine. It's out there, and they're more than welcome to use it.
That's really, really lovely. Really nice. I give you that. Now, just a quick one, yeah. What's the best way you could easily, quickly describe Presearch to someone who is just coming newly into the crypto space? Let's say in quick 2 sentences or in a quick paragraph, what's the easiest way you could describe what Presearch is to someone?
It's a privacy-focused search engine. No personal data is collected. There is no tracking. There is no profiling. There is no censorship. And so you get the absolute best search results possible.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, I want to talk on the privacy aspect. Now, how does Presearch ensure users' privacy while maintaining a decentralized infrastructure?
Well, keep in mind, the majority of the structure is decentralized, right? Because we have these 40,000 nodes. The token is on ERC20. It's an ERC20 token. It's also on Base. And next week, Monday or Tuesday, we launch the beta test of Web3. So even staking will be decentralized or custodial at that point. But the most important thing, in direct answer to your question, is we don't collect data. And most people have not even registered with the search engine. We have nothing on them, absolutely nothing. If people want to stake, then we have a little bit of information, but it's only information they've given us. We don't collect any data whatsoever. And unlike other search engines, they'll say, okay, we don't sell your data or something like that, but they still collect the data. They promise not to sell it. But if a government agency or regulator or law enforcement comes along, they have to give up your data. If those same regulatory agencies or law enforcement comes to us, we'll comply, but we have nothing to give them. In fact, we've had inquiries from 2 users under the European privacy law. And they said, you have an obligation to tell me everything you have about me. And our response was the same. We had no information on you. All we had was your email address because you registered. In this request, you've given us your name, you've given us your country, you've told us how long you've been using Presearch. We had none of that information. You have given us more information in your request than we had on you before you sent it.
That is pretty amazing. I'll give you that. And what it's really mind blowing is the fact that no data is actually being collected, because I had the same concern. If you remember earlier when we were discussing on DMs, I had the same concern, and a couple of other persons, a couple of community members actually still had that same concern of how the data is not being collected, and yet they get to use the search engine, stay incognito. And I like the fact that you also did mention about someone from the European concept, the European part of the world, because I know JIPA actually requires individuals who will be doing things like this to confer with their data policy, and being the fact that data is not actually being needed, it's not being stored on Presearch. That is really, really wonderful.
Yeah, we don't. Again, we don't collect any data. Sometimes people give us data voluntarily because, like I said, they want to set up a wallet or something, or they want to do Presearch staking, search staking. But even then, it's very, very little information, and it's nothing that we take from them. It's always information they give to us. And if they don't want to, they don't have to. Not a problem.
That's nice. That's really, really nice. I like that. Now, when it comes to the token itself, can you explain the role for the pre-tokens within the Presearch ecosystem?
I did quite a bit already, but let me wrap it up. And that is, we pay out to node runners and search stakers. The vast, vast majority goes to search stakers. We take it in from keyword staking, payment for ad-free search, payment for pre-GPT, and other functions that we will add over time. Very inexpensive, like $2.49 a month for pre-GPT. So it's really, really low price, as low as we can make it. And again, in respect to the generative AI, we have very, very low guardrails. So there's very few controls, no censorship. And on a default, if you use anybody else's generative AI, your search, your query will go into the LLM by default. Ours, it doesn't go into the LLM by default. You can change that setting if you want to help train it. But again, every focus is on privacy. No data on you, no data even not on your searches in pre-GPT. That doesn't go out anywhere. So that almost closes a loop on tokenomics. It's still slightly inflationary. When we did this reorganization I was telling you about, the prior team was selling almost 20 million tokens a month, which was just ridiculous and unsustainable. We now are doing a net payout of around 3. And by the end of the year, we hope to actually be disinflationary. So we'll be buying more tokens than we're paying out. And the way we fund that is on the economic side, because there was no monetization before. We're monetizing now. We will hit about half of our burn rate in February. Not 100% certain because we got a couple days left, but I think we'll hit half of our burn rate. We've never had a full-time salesperson for ads. And a little bit about ads, they're our images. We control them, so no cookies, no pixels, no tracking, nothing. Advertisers don't like that, but we have a good audience, so they are willing to still work with us. So we take part of our revenue. Right now it's 5, started at 1%, went to 2%, now it's 5%. I'd like to raise it all the way up to 20%. Of our revenue, monthly revenue, goes to buy back tokens. And that will allow us to close the loop and make the entire crypto or token ecosystem, pre-ecosystem, deflationary. Still there?
Oh, that's really good. Now, one question I had in mind was the way the search engine actually really works. And are there any restricted sites or IPs that individuals will not be able to reach once you use Presearch? Or based on the fact that...
Two answers to that. Right now, we're a meta search engine. So you can access 130 different search engines through us, which is really, really nice. We're doing a WeFunder campaign, a global WeFunder campaign, and our main use of proceeds is to continue the design and building our own AI-centric, decentralized search engine, which would be the first of its kind in the world. And we're really excited, really excited about that. But in terms of restrictions, we restrict nothing. The issue is not with us. If you're in Russia or China, those are the two biggest countries that that do restrictions. North Korea restricts almost everything on the internet, but it's much smaller. The government of those countries will place restrictions on you. We don't put any restrictions on anyone in any country. But sometimes in countries like Iran is another one where there's some real restrictions. We have a number of Iranian users. They use a VPN and then they use Presearch. Does that make sense?
Perfect. It does make perfect sense. All right. I actually had a question based on that, but it kind of like slipped my mind. But I'll just push forward a bit to my notepad and I'll get back to that. But then for countries, for example, like Nigeria, I think Nigeria has a restriction on crypto itself. The Nigerian government actually has placed a restriction on cryptocurrencies, and that's why peer-to-peer most times is really, really a disaster for persons in Nigeria, except you have to use some other platforms and stuff like that. Now, what's your take in, because I think you did make mention of transitioning or bringing in Presearch over to Nigeria and making this node available for persons in Nigeria. Now, in the coming future, if there is a needed governmental restriction or a needed governmental challenge that might pose a little bit of challenge for Presearch here in Nigeria, what's your strategy to help individuals who might be fully vested into Presearch by that time to be able to still obtain or reach their accounts or use the platform despite the challenge or the restriction that might be placed during that period?
Well, we're a small company, so we can't really help people in every country in the world break through on the internet. But by the way, I'm looking at network.presearch.com, and Presearch has nodes in Nigeria right now. So what we do is, you can set up a node at no cost. If you run it off your own computer, it's completely free, and we'll provide all the guidance and assistance. But there's really nothing we can do as a small company to change the political environment in, countries, in any country, really.
That's all right. That's okay. Now,
so we don't have any node runners in Mauritius. Sorry to say, we have some in Madagascar and we have some in Nigeria. I'm looking at the map now.
I'll pack my bags first thing tomorrow, and I'll head back to Nigeria.
By the way, we also have nodes. Let me just read you the African countries. We've got South Africa, Mozambique, Tanzania. By the way, I climbed Kilimanjaro, so I've been to Tanzania. Kenya, Cameroon, Nigeria, Ghana, Sudan, which is surprising, Egypt, Libya, lots in the Middle East, Morocco. So pretty good range. Madagascar, as I said, certainly not everywhere in Africa. So if anyone wants to, is interested in starting a node, please do so. Libya is another interesting one, and Tunisia. So we have a lot of the Maghreb, strangely enough. Anyway, but it would be great to have more nodes in Africa. We have a lot of countries covered, but there's usually a small number of nodes. So even if you're in one of those countries, please go ahead, launch a node.
That's nice. That's really nice. I want to talk in on the pre-GPT. Okay, yes, I just remember the question I had. Yeah, it was pertaining to pre-GPT. But I want to talk more on pre-GPT 2.0. What are the key challenges that have been faced during the or that were faced during the development of pre-GPT 2.0, and how were they being overcome?
It's a good question. We got two difficulties. One is we don't want to use an LLM. It's not our LLM. It's LLM built by somebody else, because we don't want to be tied to a single LLM. We want to move to the best one as the technology advances. Things like DeepSeek, immediately change the landscape. So we found Venice, which is a fabulous AI. They charge a lot for individuals to sign up, but because we're a channel for them, they don't charge us very much, and that's how we are able to offer the LLM, the generative AI, at a very low price. The second thing, though, is finding one that we like and finding one with very low guardrails that is interested in working with us. That's hard, because most generative AI companies are very concerned about angering someone or offending someone, and it's virtually impossible to do a search without somebody somewhere in the world not liking the results. But that's not the point. What you want is the best search, the most honest search, the most unrestricted, uncensored search. And then you decide what to do with the results. And that has been our philosophy, our ethos, if you will, of the project. And it's not easy to find companies who are producing LLMs that are willing to work with a company like ours, because they'd rather be they are more risk averse and want to restrict your searches, and then nobody gets angry or fewer people get angry. Our approach is we want people to have the freedom and privacy to search what they want to, and within certain very, very low limits. Like I said, low guardrails.
That's okay. That's really good. One other question, you did mention of using not using other LLMs. You were able to find Venus, and my question based on that is the fact that when DeepSeek actually came out, it kind of like posed the threats for GPT and the likes. Now, you creating pre-GPT, what's your take in joining into the competitive space with AI development and the likes? How do you plan to stay afloat for 2024, for 2025, and pushing forward to the future?
Well, again, we're really the front end to other people's LLMs, and we frequently review the landscape, what results are better, faster. And if Venice falls behind, we will shift to another LLM. So we don't develop it ourselves. And some people say, hey, we should develop our own, but then we're subject to our own restrictions. People always have biases they don't even recognize. We simply look across the entire globe and pick the best one that meets our criteria and is willing to work with us. And we've got 4 different ones right now that we could work with. Like I said, it's a challenge to find them, but we've been able to do that. And we don't have the risk, the economic or financial risk of developing our own LLM, having to find good sources of information. We pick the best one that's out there, buy it in bulk, if you will, repackage it, and allow all of our users to access what we consider is one of the best LLMs in the world at a very, very, very low price. Pre-GPT, I think it's, if you buy a year, it's $2.49 a month. And you can pay for that in pre. So it's very, very simple.
That's nice. That's really good. All right. I think one last question for me on pre-GPT before we push forward is how does what's your plan on how to differentiate PreGPT from other AI chatbots in terms of privacy and in terms of performance? I know you talked a little bit about it, but this question keeps coming up from the community being sent into my DM. So how do you plan to differentiate it from other AI chatbots in terms of privacy, which has been the main core for Presearch? So in terms of privacy and in terms of performance, and what's the time frame in use for updates for PreGPT?
Sure. The privacy is very simple. We don't collect any data. Remember, we have these 40,000 nodes. So you can do a pre-GPT inquiry, and your inquiry will go through Germany. You do another inquiry, your inquiry will go through Singapore. And nothing puts those inquiries together. So there's no no personal data that can be collected, and there's no profiling. So you will get a straight up answer. In addition, if you use any other generative AI LLM, the search you do goes into the LLM itself to train the LLM. So it shifts the LLM ever so slightly toward what your kind of search is. Our default is we don't do that. We want the search to be objective. You pick the results you want, and you can tailor it to you if you want in your request, but you won't train the LLM. And we consider that just a much better way of approaching things. As far as performance, first of all, that non-profiling gives you much better performance because it gives you much more objective performance. The second aspect of performance is what I mentioned perhaps after the listener submitted the question, is that we have very low guardrails. So if you ask questions of anybody else's generative AI search engine, the AI will look at all the results and say, no, we shouldn't talk about that. We shouldn't talk about that. We shouldn't mention that. We shouldn't do this. And it'll give you what's left over. Those are called guardrails on the generative AI. We have the lowest guardrails you could possibly have to maximize the freedom of people to search for what they want to and how they want to. So that's those are two really, really big differences. In terms of timing, three-part question, in terms of timing, it's not like we're going to change it every 3 months. It really depends on what happens in the rest of the world. But I would say we will switch to a bigger, better, faster, if you will, bigger, better, better LLM, probably once or twice a year. But it really depends on how quickly the technology evolves. If it evolves more quickly, we will upgrade more quickly. If it evolves more slowly, we won't change LLMs with the same frequency. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. But then it does raise it does raise a bit of a challenge for me personally. Now I'm thinking PreGPT has very low guardrails, which gives individuals the opportunity to search whatever they want to search for, do whatever they want to do. Now, what happens whereby it begins? You also did mention that it depends on what's happening in the world and stuff like that. Now, what happens where it begins to pose a bit of a security threat to nations? For example, remember when Russia and Ukraine had a bit of a banter, and then so let's say Presearch is being created at that moment or in that period, and someone decides to say some offensive or some abusive words using Presearch against either of these countries, and the government decides or finds out about this. Do you think that it could pose a bit of a threat for Presearch shutting down, or it's going to be for individuals who would be doing these searches, the ones who are going to carry the whole problem or the whole blames for themselves?
Actually, the answer is neither. You're thinking like a regular search engine. So you're thinking, okay, I'm Aviator. I'm sitting in Moscow. And it's not past tense, by the way. The war is still very much going on where Russia invaded the Ukraine. And you're sitting in Moscow and you start looking up anti-war items on your computer. If you did that today in Russia through Yandex, which is a big search engine in Russia, you would be arrested, right? No doubt about it, you would be arrested. However, if you use Presearch, and you'd probably have to use a VPN to do it, but even if you didn't, they wouldn't even know who you are because, like I said, one search goes through Singapore, the next search goes through Germany, the next search goes through the United States. When you're in the first scenario, you're doing all these searches, they all lead back to you. If you use Presearch, one search leads to Singapore, one Germany, one US, one someplace else. So all of those searches are not associated to you. And for that reason, what are they going to do? Especially if you use a VPN. It can't be traced back to you because the actual search query is being submitted by one of 40,000 nodes across the globe.
No, I think that kind of like clarifies and answers my question. Let's just say, based on the fact that I am imperfect, I totally forgot the fact that you are actually using Presearch and you are actually staying incognito, and that is one very, very perfect feature or concept that Presearch is bringing into the crypto space, and that's really, really good. One final question from me before we get some community questions would be, what features should individuals, should the community be expecting from Presearch as an update in the coming 2025/2026?
Well, what we've already introduced was the ad-free search. We had pre-GPT-1, now it's pre-GPT-2. We introduced what we call NSFW, not safe for work, which is spicy or more adult-focused ads behind the search, which you can opt in for without giving any personal information. We're offering Web3. This is one of the very, very few Web2 projects that is making the transition to Web3. We have an ERC20 token. It's now on base. It's been on base for like 4 or 5 months. And next Monday or Tuesday, we will have the beta for custodial staking. Right now, you have to send your tokens into the centralized Presearch server, if you will, or wallet, and stake out of there. We want to get rid of that, so we're flipping everything to decentralized search staking. And so going Web3, which would be really, really nice. The biggest change, though, is we're developing our own proprietary search engine, where we're designing it from the very beginning with AI, as opposed to AI being bolted on later. It's at the core of what Presearch does, or the Presearch search engine will do. We're designing it now. We need to finish the design, so we need to let a contract for that. We're doing a WeFunder equity campaign to allow everybody to own part of Presearch. The employees or the team members who didn't own any of it before my team took over, now everybody is a shareholder in Presearch, and everyone listening here can become a shareholder as well. And we'll roll that search engine out piece by piece. It's not binary. All is our search engine, all is somebody else. We're actually a meta search engine. You can use 130 search engines, but without profiling, anonymously, everything else that I described. And so the results will be different than if you use them directly. And you will have no information collected, regardless of which of those search engines you used. We're going to add our own, roll it out, slowly taking more and more searches. And we're really excited about that because we'll introduce specialized nodes, crawling nodes, index nodes, in addition to the search nodes, which is what the 40,000 nodes are. People need more nodes more robust nodes, more powerful nodes, to be able to index and crawl the entire web just like any search engine does. And that will add a whole new dimension to Presearch.
Amazing, really amazing. Now, I got a question that came in. It was based off on the market positioning and adoption. So, what strategies are in place to drive user adoption and increase market share?
It's a really good question. Historically, and this is one of the reasons I took over, or they begged me to take over, is there was no marketing. There was no marketing or advertising of Presearch. So on the one hand, you can say that's horrible news. On the other hand, though, it means that the world is our oyster. We go out and start marketing this. Very few people have heard of it. It's part of the reason we're doing this AMA. And we don't need 10% market share to be successful. Of the search market, my gosh, we could have 0.0001% of Google's market share, and we would be very happy and very successful. So we're doing a multi-pronged approach. We're doing these AMAs, we're doing marketing. Presearch has appeared in a large number of articles recently. I've appeared in more articles. We're going to do things like banner ads, which we don't allow on Presearch because they violate our privacy policy. But we'll do that on other people's search engines. We're going to do a whole range of different activities to increase the number of searches. We're doing about 13 million a month, but we'd like to hit 100 million by the end of this year, if at all possible. That may be a bit optimistic, but I'm not sure. Once we've really got a good product here. Once we get more people looking at it, I think we'll have a lot more people sticking with it and using it.
Oh, that's really, really good. Now, does any of those plans you have for 2024 actually cover an integration to other blockchains or other services? Because this is actually another question from someone else asking if there are plans to integrate Presearch with other blockchain platforms or services.
Well, we already have to some degree, because it's an ERC20 token that was on the Ethereum blockchain only, and now it's already on Coinbase's Base blockchain. We've talked with a couple projects about, sharing interoperability to some degree, but it's not a near-term priority. Our near-term priority is Go Web 3, and like I say, that design of that is basically done, and the beta testing starts next week. And then the focus, I think, will probably be on an exchange. We'd like to get on new exchanges, bigger exchanges, particularly in North America, because that's where North America and Europe, I should say, because that's where most of the users are today. But I really want to see an expansion of users into South America, into Africa, or more into Africa. We've got a lot of people there now, and more into Asia. And Asia is just a place we haven't really focused on. We're changing that now. We have our Presearch takeover ads, which are background ads, so they don't get in the way of your search results. And we control them all, so no pixels, no codes, nothing. They're just an image. We really haven't focused on Asia yet, but we are now. And we have some of those ads, for instance, that are in Japanese at this point in time. So we're trying to be even more global than we already are.
That's really good. Mysterio came in with one based off for developers, and he was asking if the Presearch code base is actually open source, and if no, how can developers contribute to the ecosystem?
Good question. Part of it is open source. Most of it is not. because we're making so many changes and we have to have the smart contract audited and everything. But we have, and we'll get more to an open source, but we have to get a little bit more stability first. But we have a number of, in fact, maybe most of our developers are community members who are helping us out. We usually, maybe even always, pay them something, generally in tokens. So if you have development skills that you think fit in this area, especially for search, as we build our own proprietary search engine, please reach out, DM me, and I'll send your background off to our dev team, and they'll reach out to you.
I think you actually touched in on the second question he actually asked, because he was wondering how Presearch incentivize node operators to remain engaged despite potential fluctuations in the token rewards. And you also made mention about how you actually reward or kind of like give out a bit of incentives to developers who are actually working with you guys in the community. But aside that, are there any other steps or any other thing you guys are doing to get these ones actually much more engaged to the project, despite the fact that they are being paid with the token itself?
Well, if you mean engage the node runners, that's really pretty much a financial transaction, right? As the price goes up, it's at just under a cent now. As the price goes all the way up to 7 cents, we will not reduce the number of tokens that node runners receive. So up to 7 cents, they will make 10x what they're making today. After 7 cents, we'll cut back the tokens, as the price goes up. But as I mentioned before, we want to make the token deflationary. And when we get to that point, probably even before, the token price will start to steadily rise. And that means if you get a token paid in month 1, and if you don't sell it right away, that token will be worth more in month 2, worth more in month 3. And the way we get the token price to increase is by making the company profitable, the project profitable, and then we have more money to buy more tokens. And you can imagine how that flywheel works, right? You have more users, you make more money, you buy more tokens, you attract more attention, you have more users, you have more advertisers, right? It just keeps on going. And we're just at the beginning of that process. So to everyone on the team, we have some people that actually exercise their stock options. The stock options vest, but you have to pay in to exercise them. Usually people don't do that. They wait till a company's been sold or something. And we have a lot of team members who have paid their own money into the company to get shares in the company. And they're now on the cap table, right? They're now on the shareholders register because they are so excited about where this project is going.
That's really, really wonderful. Now, one final text question before I open up the mic. We're actually running out. Has there been any feedback that Presearch has received from users? And if yes, how has these feedbacks actually helped in shaping the platform's future decisions?
Well, remember the project, this is its sort of like second incarnation. It's been around for almost 8 years. I'm certain that we've had hundreds of thousands of comments from users, and we constantly take them into consideration. For instance, we finally rolled out maps, which is actually quite difficult. It was the last piece to make Presearch a full-fledged search engine. We rolled out maps about 4 weeks ago. We've made at least 3 sets of improvements to the maps. All of those improvements are based on user feedback. So we do it all the time. We need our users to be happy. We need the community to be happy. And so we pay a lot of attention to them. We can't afford to ignore them, so we wouldn't dare.
That's really good. All right, we'll just get a question before we close out for today. ES Trigger Network. ES, I hope you are having a wonderful day. The mic is all yours. Yes.
Hi, Vito. Thank you very much. Timothy, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
All right, cool. So basically, I've enjoyed the conversation so far about research and being a search engine. It's nice. But then my major concern with issues of search engines like that of Google, it never has network issues due to high traffic, high demand in traffic, or high users. Now you come in, and that was why I was hoping that you would come up with your own search engine, which I heard is coming out quite all right, fine and good. But then what happens whereby other search engines that you are linked to does not have what you need. For example, I type in a word or a strings of sentence I need to search. This one does not have. Does it now be direct me to the next one and the next one, or how does it go?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
Okay, so what I'm asking is, what happens when there's a high influx of traffic to the search engine that you are connected to?
Ah, got it. Oh, I see. You're saying we haven't had that. Oh no, we have had massive influxes of traffic. Could you actually mute your speaker, because I think thank you. It's picking mine up. Thank you. We've had 100 million searches a day because of some event, right? So we tested this search engine under really tough conditions, not for long periods of time, not yet for long periods of time. I will give you that, but for days or hours, very, very high intensity, we've tested a lot. The other thing we've tested accidentally is when the internet in a country, had problems and went down. And, you read about, it's generally because an infrastructure provider did an update and it takes down the whole network. So we have lost tens of thousands of nodes at one time, just like that. And nobody noticed because all the other nodes kicked in, took that traffic, the nodes that went down came back up, and the traffic redistributed itself. We are really, really happy with how robust the network has proven to be. It's why one of the reasons why it's decentralized, and we can handle massive surge capacity. So we're prepared to grow the search engine 1, 2, maybe even 3 orders of magnitude.
All right. Sorry, my mic. That's
Thank you.
I don't know if I can drop one more question. Okay, I'll drop it to your Telegram.
Thank you very much, ES Trigger, for your question. Thank you for so much. Hi, team. It's been really, really amazing having you over talk about Presearch. It's been really, really an awesome session. Are there any final words you might want to have to give to the community, or something you feel might not have touched on? Please do so.
Well, the thing I would say mainly is please try Presearch. Go to presearch.com and see what you think of it. Hopefully you'll be very pleased. And whether you are or you aren't, give us any feedback you'd like. We're constantly trying to improve it.
Thank you very much. And thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in for another session here on the Buffalo Gems community. It's been really wonderful. I know it's a little bit late for some of you and for some of us, but it's actually really early for some other persons. But it's been an amazing session so far. And I want to say a big thank you to you all. And so wherever you're tuning in from, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.
Take care.